Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
It's Ferrall Coast to Coast in the biggest way possible right here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Here with you on a Friday. Get Scotty in here in a moment. A lot going on, of course. Very, very busy Friday. Lots of conference tournament action going on. And we have NBA tonight, NHL, the Players' Championship rolling as well. So a lot to do here on a Friday, coast to coast, and huge NFL moves as well that we have to talk about. That's for sure, including one involving Scotty's Steelers. That is absolutely there. And Scotty is back with us now. And wow, I was about to say, with some of the NFL moves that we got to talk about, especially a big one off the top.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Mike. And all I have to say is it's pain free Friday for us all. Now, minutes on the mahogany, wagging it up. 100, 200, bad, 80, bad, bad, I vote bad, attitude, bad, say bad, law, bad, do, bad, bad, bad vibes. We are live in the Magic City Studios in the Umbrella Pleasure, right across the river through the woods from where Granny loves a little Three Kings Blue Hybrid in New York City. Big Apple, ooh. People dressing plastic bags, ready to drive, some kind of fat and shake it up. I'm friend coming off a flat party up, rats on the west side, bed bugs up down, what about thousands out of everything splattered all over Manhattan. It's on the rock and roll, but I like it. Yes, I do, but I like it. Hey, what's gigging? I'm Ferrall with your boy Carver High. Mafia running it, of course. Luke, I am your father with us. And we start with a birthday roll call. Had a little technical difficulties there. Figured them out, thank God for technology. Paul Pogba, 31, Rael Perez, 42, Kevin Youkilis, 45, Cornell Brown, 49, Robert Fig, 50, Oliver Gibson, 52, and Mike Tomlin, 52 today. Paul Cruz, 54, with Eric Castle and Chris Dahlman, Lewis Riddick, double Nichols, Kirk Scrafford, 57, Ron Hall, 60, Terry Cummings played with Mark Aguirre on that 80 DePaul team in Chicago, 63 today. Craig Ludwig von Beethoven, 63. Harold Baines, badass, 65. Clay Matthews, same thing, 68. So all of the tournament action today. I watched a crazy game with Purdue and Michigan State in the Big Ten. I don't know if you saw it, but it went down to the wire, basically. Purdue got it done 67-62. Michigan State gave them all they could handle. How about this? Tennessee getting whacked today. They're down 67-53 to Mississippi State with 2.5 minutes left in the SEC. South Florida, the 1 seed in the American Athletic, up big on East Carolina, 81-59. Northwestern 4-2 on Wisconsin in the Big Ten. UTEP beat Sam Houston 65-63 in Conference USA. Tons of games starting now. Wichita and UAB in the American Athletic. Middle 10 and Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky laying 6.5, UAB laying 5 in that game with the Shockers. Underway, Bethune-Cookman and Grambling in the Southwestern Athletic. Bottom of the hour, South Carolina, Auburn. St. Peter's and Quinnipiac at 6:30. Pitt and North Carolina at 7. In the ACC, a good one, Texas Tech and Houston in the Big 12. North Texas and FAU, A&M, and Kentucky. It goes on all night long with college rack. And we've had our eyes on it all day. We'll break down all this. Michigan fires Juwan Howard after 5 seasons. And, of course, last night we watched Indiana beat Penn State 61-59. Leal at the buzzer with the tip-in after a missed shot, his second big bucket of the game, and the Hoosiers advance. Ohio State beat Iowa, North Carolina State over Duke. How about Duke? Patsy, Duke getting sure they are. Marquette beat Villanova in a Hoover time. We got Big East odds. We got Patino for you. Baylor over Cincy easy. Iowa State beat K-State easy. Lead by 4. Too bad we had the Rebels in 4.5. Check out in overtime. We got those Mountain West odds, Pac-12 odds. Washington State and Colorado win. I still think Colorado's going to get it done tonight as well. Stanford fires Gerard Haas 10 minutes after their loss to Washington State. Odds to win the national title, and Americans expected to bet $1 billion or more on March Madness. I guess even more than the Super Bowl. They're betting more on college rack than the Super Bowl now, which I'm not surprised at all on. We'll break down all of tonight's games, every one of them: San Diego State, Utah State, Colorado State. Game tonight, Temple, Charlotte, North Texas FAU, you name it, you got it. Kenny, touchdown, traded to the Eagles. Kenny Pickett, after 10 seasons and 3, even though he only deserved 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and one of the great sack men of all time for a defensive tackle. Chargers trade Keenan Allen to the Bears. There was a deal. Texans and Vikings made a deal. We'll tell you all about it. We got all the NFL signings, plus Coach Young will break down all the basketball on the Lions share. Davis Lee Roth-Maddock will join us to talk about baseball and picks for tonight. Today in Carver High history, we got Rich Sermonello on the show today. We'll talk NBA rack. By the way, Carver High.
And a Cinderella run in March Madness, which is what we love out of the NCAA tournament. Indiana State should be in the big dance. I hope the selection committee follows.
Depending on what bracket they end up on, they could really make a strong case to win the national championship. Hence why their odds keep getting shorter, and shorter.
Only on SportsGrid.
I want to get your thoughts on the Orioles going into the season because, Buck, they just seem like an offensive juggernaut with all of these prospects that they have, one after the other.
I'd be careful that, when you're not the little engine that could, and you're not sneaking up on it kind of everybody, and the first year that it is expected of you is a different dynamic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Kentucky on the road as a 7-8-point dog, beat Tennessee by 4. North Carolina as a 5.5 point underdog, beat Duke on the road.
I took Kentucky plus the points. I think you won it as well. I even said I wouldn't be shocked if they won it. I'm not shocked. They're just that good. It's can they be focused for 40 minutes, and they actually played, I guess you would call it somewhat defense.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches.
Big Mafia telling me, listen to this. BetMGM has added Kenny Pickett to the list that includes only Tom Brady for people that will not be allowed to use the BetMGM mobile app due to his prima donna behavior. Wait, last year when he was asked to dress when Mason Rudolph was playing, and also, what's this? He was not receiving the Russell Wilson news adequately enough for Steelers front office and management and coaching staff, and thus that was fast forwarded. It appears, let me listen, to the BetMGM people who will not allow Kenny Touchdown to have an account. Wait, one last thing. Everyone else that gets an account on iOS or on Android in the Play Store at BetMGM.com can open up their account with $5, make a bet on anything, win or lose, and get $150 in bonus bets. So everybody else gets $150 in bonus bets. And wait, all they have to use is the code SG150. SG counting for not SportsGrid anymore, but so gone. Touchdown Kenny is so gone from Pittsburgh that everyone in the community gets $150. That is phenomenal. One other note, get the SportsGrid app. I've turned a lot of people onto it. even in physical therapy, all the guys that I work with that have had open heart surgery like me and died while working here and came back from the dead like Jesus. I've turned them all onto the SportsGrid app because they're all fans of Carver High and Joey Prawns. Thus, they got it free on iOS and on the Play Store, and they get to watch highlights, videos, scores, news, odds, in-game odds. They can watch the network, listen to the network, and they did not have to pay for any of such items. It's free. Go do it yourself and feel good about yourself. I think you're good to go. All right, Carver High, I got to tell you, the shocker for me today was how Tennessee got their ass spanked, and they'll lose the number 1 seed for that. You cannot give them the number 1 seed over North Carolina now after that performance today against Mississippi State.
No doubt about that. Big trouble for Tennessee as they got whacked by Mississippi State. And look, I think all North Carolina really needs to do now, Scotty, is I don't even think they need to win the ACC. Maybe just win tonight and make it to the final tomorrow night. I think they're going to win the tournament either way. But, DeCourcy was telling me on Tuesday that he thought, if they both won their conference tournaments, that Tennessee would get it. But he said if one slipped up, it would open the door. And sure enough, that's what's going to happen here. There's another stat that's been flying around this afternoon after this Tennessee loss that I figure I would share with you now. No team has ever won the national championship when they lose their first conference tournament game. So a team that wins no games in their conference tournament has never gone on to win the national championship. So you could put Tennessee in that boat. You could put Duke in that boat from last night. You could put Creighton in that boat from last night. They all lost their first conference tournament game. No one's ever gone on to win the title after that.
So I had people today playing ball this morning, and it was a rough morning, I have to say. I played 6 games and lost all 6. It was very humbling. And I had even people yelling at me early in the morning, 6 a.m., people yelling at me. And I was getting all the rebounds, and I was still getting yelled at and blamed for things that I had nothing to do with. We already know that I have no speed, no lateral movement, and no ability to do anything except foul, rebound, set massive wide body screens, and finish from anywhere. I can shoot inside or outside and put it in the tin, but I was getting yelled at. All these things were happening. What I've learned is that a guy said to me today, he goes, Nova still deserves to be in the NCAA tournament. And I said, listen, son, you need to stick to beating me in basketball early in the morning and stop talking about Villanova. They suck too. Okay? I'm sick of hearing about Creighton. I'm sick of hearing. Now, I bought into Tennessee with their veteran team. I really did. But that's, out the window. That ship has sailed today. That performance today, they looked so pathetic against Mississippi State, no less, who's literally, well, I guess they got 20 wins now. So congratulations. That's flat out embarrassing is what that is. Duke already showed me that they were candy against North Carolina. And the performance against a real average, in my opinion, NC State team last night is all you need to know. Now they're playing Virginia, and then North Carolina's playing Pitt. And Pitt's been playing great basketball, but North Carolina's still flat out better than Pitt. Some way North Carolina wins that game tonight. My guess is, NC State has a shot to beat Virginia. I mean, BC gave them a game. I think they have a shot, but North Carolina's going to win the ACC, and they're going to have the number 1 seed, and they're going to be the 4th number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's what's going to happen.
I agree with you. That is what's going to happen. That's for sure. Here's what else is going on right now. You mentioned Northwestern and Wisconsin, second game of the day in Minneapolis at the Big Ten. 23-20, Northwestern leads with about just under 9 minutes to go in the first half in that game. Purdue, Scotty, won the first game, didn't cover, though, against Michigan State, 67-62. So a bit of a rock fight. Sparty hung around for a long time, but Purdue does end up taking care of business at the end of the day.
Look, I already had North Carolina in my Final Four, and I had Tennessee in the Final Four. And I think that, I know it takes some massive stones to say this, but Purdue always finds a way to win, don't they? They just always find a way to win. Now, I've been saying the exact opposite about them for the last couple of years, including all this season, that when they're in a tight game in the NCAA tournament, they're going to lose. When they're in a 3-4 4-point game with under a minute to go, they lose. We've seen them lose to dinky schools the last couple of years, right? As a top seed. I think Purdue with Zach Edey and what they have now, they got the transfer from SIU that makes them so much better. They shoot better. They got 3 great guards, not 2. They got 3. So they have guard depth and they have Edey. And, I mean, they own the glass. They own the paint. I would replace Tennessee with Purdue in the Final Four this year. I really would, even though that sounds absolutely insane. But I think it's UConn, Houston, North Carolina, and Purdue now. I cannot put Tennessee in there after what I saw today. They didn't show up to play Mississippi State in the SEC tournament when you had a gigantic fat bye, and then you play like that. Maybe you're right, Carver High, because you've said before that Rick Barnes is a choker.
He's a choker. They will never get my money in a big spot, ever. And that includes whatever bracket they end up in on Sunday night. All right, I know you got Gabe coming up. Let me give you these 3 games because they all are going to tip relatively soon within the hour. Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky, that's going to be the second game of the day in Conference USA. UTEP won the first game. They upset Sam Houston, Scotty, who I believe was the 1 seed in that tournament. You have South Carolina and Auburn, a fat number there. And Wichita State and UAB will be the second game of the day in the American Conference. South Florida won the first game. They beat East Carolina.
Okay, so I think Western Kentucky wins, UAB wins and covers, and so do the Hilltoppers. And then I believe South Carolina will cover the 7.5 against Auburn. And that team can beat anybody. So Auburn's going to have to work to win that game by no more than a bucket, in my opinion. That's an overtime game, if you ask me. And I think South Carolina can obviously play with anyone. They're dangerous.
I think you got a little revenge here, too. Auburn whacked them by 40 earlier this year. I think South Carolina shows up like you and stays within that number at the minimum.
You can worry about Kentucky's maturity. I get it. Are you making a good point about it? Absolutely. They're young. They're inexperienced. They're going to make a ton of mistakes. Sometimes you can worry about their defensive tenacity. But boy, they got shot creators and they got shot makers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca, only on SportsGrid.
I'm sitting in this chair last year talking, everyone's talking about how the Mets have won the offseason and all these signings and all these players are brought in. And then, you have to deal with, injuries like I think I've never seen before.
That they're really going to try to upgrade some defensively in the outfield and with Bader. And there's a lot of good things there, but the depth is what's going to be important because not everybody's going to hold up.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Of course, you can catch Sports Rage every night, weeknights at 10 Eastern on SportsGrid TV, SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 159, Sports Byline, and all of our affiliates, including the mightier 1090 in San Diego, in the way. Morency, your boy Juwan Howard got fired today up in Ann Arbor. Your thoughts?
It actually, I'm sad. And I'm not sad because it was the wrong thing to do. It's like a relationship that doesn't work, but you're still in love. Nobody loves Michigan more than Juwan Howard does. Really, this guy wanted to come back and win a title. Don't forget, part of the Fab Five team for younger viewers and listeners. He played in 2 national championship games with the Michigan Wolverines. They fell short. He felt like there was unfinished business. It was almost like for the Fab Five crew. I'm going to go back. I'm going to be the coach. And Juwan Howard's not one of these guys, because I saw some people online, Scott, saying, so what happens when you give jobs to NBA guys with no experience? Juwan Howard had experience, bro. The guy was an assistant coach with Eric Spoelstra. You know what I mean? The guy was like he's an assistant coach with the Miami Heat for years. He's been around the NBA. I don't think he's terrible, but it just wasn't working. His health issues, Scott, being a coach, bro, in college sports, it's not like being an assistant coach in the NBA or even a head coach in the NBA, where you take a vacation after. You don't have to worry about recruiting. You don't have to worry about raising money for NIL deals. He wasn't good at it, just point blank. Hunter Dickinson, bro, and this is on the Michigan alum, too, just so it's not just, Juwan Howard sucks, and that's why Michigan basketball sort of quickly fell apart. All the money was going into football. Hunter Dickinson made like $25,000 to play for Michigan last year. He's making $200 to play for Kansas this year. It's not complicated, guys. And don't tell me Michigan don't have $150K kicking around to pay a player. Like basketball, Scott, doesn't even cost much to get top players. Duke paid Zion like $100K, right? Like football, it's like, yeah, man, you got to pay the quarterback like $1.5, $2 to $3 million now in today's day and age for a star quarterback. Basketball, you can get a top player for a couple of $100K. And Michigan's just not doing it. The combination of the academic standards, the lack of will to spend the money. So now the question is, where do they go here, Scott? Abdul Rahim, his name is popping up here. I don't think they're going to go that route after just with an NBA player. Dustin May, keep your eye on the coach out of Florida Atlantic. There's word that Michigan wouldn't mind looking at him. And I don't know how you feel about this, because I think he's a really good coach, but I think he's a jerk. But, I guess I have to separate whether I think the guy's a jerk or not. Nate Oates, bro. Nate Oates is a hell of a coach. Won at Buffalo. See what he does at Alabama. Keep your eye on Nate Oates to Michigan as well.
So there was talk today about how for the last 2 years that the Michigan locker room was an absolute mess, a bloodletting, and that the players were all miserable, and there was fighting going on. Dickinson left. That they brought down Juwan Howard, that his own players brought him down, that they were so immature and so selfish and so ridiculous and so prima donna'd that they were the reasons why he couldn't successfully do his job in Ann Arbor. Do you believe that?
I think it's partially true. He lost control. But the kids were frustrated as well. They weren't winning. It was a bad team. It was a bad situation, a bad program. Don't forget, like I said, we're talking about a coach that had severe health issues, okay? So it's almost like a substitute teacher, Scott, or yeah, you respect the guy and you like, you know what I mean? Yeah, he's a badass. He played in the NBA and you know what I mean? You get it. But at the same point in time, he's also not there all the time. And he's punching coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know everyone thought it was funny and stuff. It wasn't. Like, it just sort of showed the out of control nature of the program. You didn't see Harbaugh punching Ryan Day. No, you beat Ryan Day. You don't punch him, right, when he slapped the Wisconsin coach. We can't have this, right? There were other instances, bro. There were a couple other instances where he came close to hitting people, okay? And
the
he
strength
never
coach.
Yeah, so it got to the point where it's like, listen, man, like, we got problems. The kids are kind of not respecting him. He's a nut job that might, like, kill someone soon. Not literally, but he might put someone through, like, the blackboard soon in the room. You know what I mean?
And he's huge.
Like, he's a big dude. He's intimidating. That's what I don't get, Scott. You're right about that, too. I've heard the same thing. There were a couple of kids on the team. It was just like, I mean, and look at, we suspended someone for road trips, but not home games. Like, it got real amateurish, okay? Well, I'm going to discipline them, but not enough that, you know, they're not going to play here. And there were a lot of weird stuff going on, but you figure that they'd be scared of a dude that's like 6'11" and then played in the NBA for years and is a mean dude from Chicago. But listen, it just didn't work, man. Coaches get fired all the time. It's just more emotional now because he was a player there. It just didn't work. You know, people, it's hard to win at both. This is one of the reasons why Chip Kelly left UCLA. The boosters didn't like him, Scott. So he's the head coach. Why would he go to be an offensive coordinator? He knew. They basically told, like, the UCLA money people in LA told the university, listen, as long as Chip Kelly's here,
we're not getting money.
We're not putting money into this anymore. We're not going anywhere with him. We're not going to put money into this anymore. He knew that. Like, he didn't get fired. He split knowing they're not supporting me. You know this. You've been around a long time.
Who did they replace him with?
Foster. They're the longtime UCLA Bruin. Yeah, he was an assistant coach.
Right. So let me ask you this question. Today, Russell Wilson signed his deal, and they had him doing a press conference, and they said
no videos this year, please, for Russ.
They said literally that Pickett didn't handle it at all like a professional. And then last year with the Rudolph situation, they asked him to dress, and he wouldn't dress. And they'd had enough. And they traded his ass on the same day that they signed Russell Wilson. They cleaned out their quarterback room completely. They traded Rudolph yesterday to the Titans, or he left as a free agent. And then they traded this kid, Kenny Pickett, to the Eagles today for a bag of donuts.
You know what? We remember those reports last year, and they denied it at the time. That Pickett refused to dress, that he was being a problem. And they said, no. And Pickett said, I would never. I'm all about the team. Clearly, he wasn't. We saw a similar situation with Mac Jones in New England, in which you've been in the league for a couple of years, yet you're acting like you're some vet, that your jaw's been taken away. Like it's like any given Sunday. You know what I mean? You're like Jeff Bridges, whoever the hell it was. I'm losing my job to Jamie Foxx. It's like, no, bro. We gave you a chance. It didn't work. Now we're going to give someone else a chance. And he stood there and he stared everyone down. And now his ass ends up in a place where he has no chance to compete for a job with Trevor Lawrence. Similar situation with Pickett. And the one thing that gets me about this, and I'll ask you, Scott, it seems to me, and I'm loading up the odds right now for this. I want to see if they're up. It seems to me, bro, that Pittsburgh for Justin Fields. Just bring Justin Fields in now, man. You have Russell Wilson. Just save Fields, get him for nothing, and you go from Kenny Pickett and Rudolph and Trubisky
to
Wilson and Fields. And now you got Russell, and you go, Russ, man, teach this kid a bit, bro. You can take him under your wing a bit, man. Like, you know, we're paying you. You're going to be our guy until you're not. But, you know, take him under your wing a bit.
I liked it for Pittsburgh. It was Dennis Quaid.
Thank you, I was like, Bridges, Quaid. They're all the same, these guys.
I had to think, too.
I knew it wasn't Bridges. Bridges a quarterback in another movie. Quaid, that's it. Thanks.
That was a great movie.
Remember his wife? He's like, I've had enough. He's like, he's all beaten down. He's been in the league forever. It's a great movie. His quarterback's all beaten down. Jamie Foxx is like on the team now. He's the new young star quarterback. And he tells his wife, he goes, man, this kid's good. He goes, he's going to take my job this year. And he goes, man, my shoulder's done. I could really use the break. You and I can go on vacation. His wife, What are you, an idiot? You make too much money to retire. You're not retiring. It was like, whoa, kind of the real scene. He wanted to retire.
Hey,
wait. Let's see. They don't have it up now with Fields where he's going to go, but wouldn't be surprised. Just quickly about this. If you're Philadelphia, a lot of times teams in the NFL like quarterbacks that are very similar to their own quarterback. Listen, Mitch Trubisky's not Josh Allen, obviously, Scott, but there's a reason why the Bills like him, and they brought him back again. Same body type, same thing. We'll run the same plays. Won't be the same, but we don't have to change our offense. Kenny Pickett and Jalen Hurts are completely different.
Opposite.
Like they're completely different quarterbacks. So Jalen Hurts gets out. What, Kenny Pickett's going to come in, and then what? Like if to me, I have Jalen Hurts to be like, yeah, Jalen's hurt, but Justin Fields is as good as he is. Okay, so we'll put Justin Fields in now, and we'll be fine. Because I think if Justin Fields, it's like where you're born, what neighborhood, what family you're born into, Scott. If Justin Fields was on the Philadelphia Eagles, he'd be rich like Jalen Hurts right now. Poor bastard ended up on the Bears, and he's a couple of months away from maybe. I just put it out there on Twitter, Scott. From the BC Lions, I'm inquiring about Fields. You want to move to Vancouver, bro?
Why not?
CFL
you
action.
like it? I mean, it's great.
Hey, start. We'll pay you $1 million. You can be the starter. How's that sound?
No, we need him in Pittsburgh now. Otherwise, they're going to have to draft a quarterback. They may draft a quarterback either way, even if they get Fields, because they'd only have 2 quarterbacks, and they've usually had 3 lingering around at some point or another. One other guy I'll tell you about that reminds me of Howard is Mike Woodson. So Mike Woodson's coaching in
Great
Indiana.
Comparison, yeah.
And they wanted to get rid of him this year because they had a bad year, but they've won 5 in a row. They're in the quarters tonight playing Nebraska. If they win that, they're in the semis tomorrow. But he was one of Knight's favorite players when Knight was alive and coaching, and he was on championship teams in Bloomington. And they treated him the same way they treated Juwan Howard in Ann Arbor. Have a good weekend, Morenz.
Thanks, Scott.
You can worry about Kentucky's maturity. I get it. Are you making a good point about it? Absolutely. They're young. They're inexperienced. They're going to make a ton of mistakes. Sometimes you can worry about their defensive tenacity. But boy, they got shot creators and they got shot makers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca, only on SportsGrid.
I'm sitting in this chair last year talking, everyone's talking about how the Mets have won the offseason and all these signings and all these players are brought in. And then, you have to deal with, injuries like I think I've never seen before.
They're really going to try to upgrade some defensively in the outfield and with Bader. And there's a lot of good things there, but the depth is what's going to be important because not everybody's going to hold up.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night, I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, so I got this South Carolina-Auburn game just tipped, right? So that's going to be awesome. And we know Tennessee lost. South Florida won big. They are tough as hell, that Abdur-Rahim team. Purdue won by 5. They didn't cover, but they won. They're in the semis tomorrow in the Big Ten. UTEP in the Conference USA won. We're watching the other one right now. Middle Tennessee's down 9 to Western Kentucky early. Wichita 7-6 on UAB and American Athletic early. The halftime score is Wisconsin 33-29 on top of Northwestern. The 5 leads the 4. And in the Southwestern Athletic, 5 left first half. Grambling up on Cookman, Bethune-Cookman 22-17. And then everything else is later. And the games tonight are literally, utterly fantastic, including my Hoosiers. I was just talking to him about Woodson. Same thing. They wanted him gone in Bloomington after getting into the NCAAs the first 2 years he was there. Then he loses Trace Jackson-Davis, Thompson, 2 great players. Replaced him with Ware. They got Renu. M'Baku is the co-freshman of the year in the Big Ten. I thought he did a good job with M'Baku and Ware. Ware is a really good player. You cannot deny he's a double-double machine. And last night he proved it again against Penn State. In the 2 games against Penn State, Mike, they got slaughtered by the 3-ball. And they got slaughtered by Penn State's point guards, Gaines and company, lit them up and got to the 10, layups and threes, and killed them in both games. Indiana, you have to admit, he coached brilliantly against them in the 3rd meeting. He took away the guards and he took away the 3-ball, and Penn State didn't shoot worse in a game all year than they did last night against Indiana. And Indiana beat them by 2 on a Leal tip-in on the last shot of the game. Indiana moves into the quarters against Nebraska. They wanted him gone. They wanted him fired. He's coming back because they didn't want to pay him $12 million, $1 million a year buyout for 12 years to get rid of him. That's how the contract was drawn up. I think he deserves a better fate. I don't deny I wanted Dusty May in Bloomington, but whether you like it or not, Mike Woodson's coming back to Bloomington to coach. Now, they've won 5 in a row, and they won big games. The game against Michigan State was big. The game at Minnesota in the Barn and Williams Arena was big, and they kicked their ass. And then they beat a team that beat them twice in the Big Ten tournament. Are you giving them an NCAA bid for the way they're playing now? If you're going to give, this is what I have to say. If you're going to give Rick Pitino a bid for the way St. John's closed out the season over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, then you got to give Indiana a bid. They play in the Big Ten. And so does, you're talking about Big East and Big Ten heavyweights playing and winning out. You have to give those teams bids.
I think they're absolutely starting to knock on the door. There's no doubt about that. I think they absolutely have to win tonight. I think they got to beat Nebraska tonight. I think they lose tonight. I'm not sure that that they're going to be in the conversation, but I think if they win tonight, they're going to very much be in the conversation. And I think if they ever won tomorrow, they would absolutely be in. I think that they're right there on the doorstep.
How many
they just
rum
need to
and
knock it over.
Cokes? What is the over-under for the amount of rum that I will drink tonight watching Indiana play Nebraska? And what is the over-under on cussing? in that game.
Wow.
Now, you've got to give me two numbers. The number of rum and cokes, double-sized tumblers, as you know, no single glasses, double-sized tumblers. They're this big. And then what would your profanity over-under number be?
Well, the tumblers is probably we'd have to set it at like 5.5, I think, for the tumblers for the game. And the profanity,
79.
I mean, are we talking? Yeah, but that's. I was going to say closer to 100. So 79 is really that's right around in the area that we want to be. And I actually do. I do think they win tonight. Nebraska's a team, and we'll get to those numbers in a little bit. Nebraska's a team, Scotty, that was very dominant at home this year in Lincoln. But when they've been outside of that gym this year, they have not been as good. So I mean, I think this line, I love the line. I love the points with Indiana tonight. And I do think that they can absolutely spring the.
I need them to win.
So for your scenario, you need to win.
Money line.
No doubt.
I need them to win the game. I'm not interested in, moral victories and betting. This is tournament time. I need them to win.
You need them to win.
The young gun is transferring to IU, so he's already on board with the gang. And then I'm going to be like on this game tonight, like stink on Shaq. And all I know is I need to win. I can't worry about spread, but I'm on the 5.5. But I need him to win the game outright. I got no time for anything else. No feelings.
No feelings at all. All right, let me. I will give you those numbers for tonight in a little bit. I want to rip through some other things from last night first. ACC. Nice effort by Duke. They lost to NC State 74-69. So 3 wins in 3 days for NC State so far down in D.C. Virginia needed overtime to beat Boston College. To be quite honest with you, I thought Boston College blew the game. I thought they had it in the second half, and they let Virginia kind of crawl back into it and do what they do. So 4 teams left there in the ACC. This is just to win the tournament, Scotty. I'll give you the spreads for tonight in a moment. But North Carolina, of course, minus 165, to win. Virginia plus 425, Pitt plus 550, NC State 6-1.
I just think really you're talking about head and shoulders shampoo. The heels are head and shoulders above all those teams. They're just too good. And whether you like it or not, I think they're going to win the ACC championship. Now, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Pitt basketball because I grew up with it. I used to go watch Pitt play basketball my whole life, Jerome Lane and others. All I know is I'd love to see Pitt knock off North Carolina today. And I will tell you that Jeff Capel has had Pitt ready every day this entire season. They are ready to go. They will not back down to North Carolina tonight. That's going to be a great game. And I do believe the number's 8, right? I think they have a shot. I really do. But at the end of the day, in the last minute, I think North Carolina is better than all of these teams. I'd say the toughest team in that lot is the one they're playing. I think their hardest game is Pitt. I think North Carolina will beat Virginia or North Carolina State. And NC State's on fire right now. They're hot right now. This is like Jim Valvano type hot. In '83, he won the ACC tournament and then never lost another game and won the NCAA championship on an air ball. And they dunked the air ball miss into the basket to win the national title, and you know the rest is history. So they remind me of that team, the way they came to the ACC tournament. They suck. And now all of a sudden they're winning every game they play. How do you not bet on them today?
It's true. No doubt about that. They've gotten very, very hot down there. Big East. Providence beat Creighton last night. Huge for them. Providence is one of those 4 teams in the Big East, 4 or 5 teams that needed to make a little bit of a run here to solidify themselves.
They're in.
Creighton is huge. I think they are as well. I think beating Creighton is enough to push them through the number. But what I have for you today is one of the stranger post-game interactions, I think maybe the strangest I've ever seen. And this is Providence head coach Kim English after the game. Big win over Creighton. You know, we're talking about the thing. And somebody, one of the media members in the crowd, Scotty, asked him about his marital status. Yes, this actually happened. Here we go.
Second round.
Hey, Coach, so you are trending on Black Twitter. The exact Twitter.
Come on, Black Twitter.
They like your
Okay.
section.
Okay.
And so they're wanting to know who this, what's his marital status. You know.
I think that's our first marital status question in tournament history.
The exact question is, do you fall single or in the house of the wall?
You could pass.
Man, yeah, no comment. I'm locked in on this team. I'm locked in on our team right
Third row,
now.
Is he getting hit on?
Third row right here.
Was she hitting on it?
So I maybe. I mean, why else would that have happened right there?
That is fantastic.
We've
That's
seen
a
a
nice
lot of press
fish you landed
conferences.
there, Carver High. You always land the best video. You're just always fishing for marlin. You pulled one into the boat again. Right off the Montauk shore, right there.
We've seen a lot of weird press conferences in our day. We've seen a lot of weird stuff. I don't think we've ever seen that before. Somebody in the crowd asking the coach if he's married. Just no. And he was as dumbfounded about it as anybody else up there at the podium. Marquette beat Villanova in the other game. I'll just say this about that game. If you were a Villanova backer, you wish that shot counted with 1/10 of a second left because you would have covered. Instead, you went to overtime, Scotty, and you got Marleyed if you had 4.5 because you didn't cover that if you were back in Villanova.
What a shame. They burned me last weekend with the loss to Creighton at the buzzer. I am done listening to or dealing with Villanova. They are not a good team. I blame Jay Wright, and I'm sick of hearing about them. They do not deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. I don't want to hear it. What are you going to put that team in over Providence? I'm sorry. You know what Providence win did? It sent like a Richmond packing to the NIT. That's what that did. You're not letting in a heavy over some mid-range, mid-level conference team that was supposed to be great that ended up losing as a number 1 seed in their first game. I'm sorry. Providence is in, Nova's out, Richmond bye. You're out too.
Yeah, they're out. No question about that.
This is evil week. This is clean up the
evil
dishes.
week. Like UConn, North Carolina, UConn is minus money to win the Big East tournament, but they're minus 275. Marquette plus 375. St. John's is 8-1. Providence is 20-1 to win this tournament. Right. They would, of course, have to beat both of those teams to get there. I did want to give you this also from Pitino after the Johnnies win yesterday, because, of course, they have come really from out of nowhere. They were left for dead that day that he did the post game, basically calling the team slow, fat. They didn't listen, and they haven't lost a game since. Here's Pitino talking about that moment and how basically the administration thought the season was over too.
I just kept thinking, and they kept saying, so, it's a good season, and let's just finish up, and it's a good season. I could sense in their thinking that in their minds it was over. In our minds it was just beginning, because March is what it's all about in college basketball. And what we told the guys is you got to play your best basketball going into March. And we knew we had 7 now, I think, 6 or 7 elimination games. 7. And these guys are roasted occasion on all 7. They knew if they lost to Creighton, lost to Butler, lost to DePaul, lost to Georgetown, it could be over.
Well, they won them all, and, that's what Indiana needs to do. This would be the 6th game in a row, and it's March. I mean, this isn't November. This isn't December. It's March. Mm-hmm. This is when it matters. He said it right there. That's all that matters. I think they both deserve it. And then I'll say this. To me, it's a shame that they're playing UConn tonight, because I wanted to see St. John's against UConn at Madison Square Garden in the title game on Saturday night in Madison Square Garden. That's what I wanted, but that's not what we're going to get. And we'll see. I won't be surprised at all if St. John's covers tonight against UConn. It gives them problems.
Very big number. We will give you that later on. First time they're in the semi since 2000 in the Big East tournament.
They're in the NCAAs. They're going to the tournament.
worry about Kentucky's maturity. I get it. Are you making a good point about it? Absolutely. They're young. They're inexperienced. They're going to make a ton of mistakes. Sometimes you can worry about their defensive tenacity. But boy, they got shot creators and they got shot makers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca, only on SportsGrid.
I'm sitting in this chair last year talking, everyone's talking about how the Mets have won the offseason and all these signings and all these players are brought in. And then, you have to deal with, injuries like I think I've never seen before.
That they're really going to try to upgrade some defensively in the outfield and with Bader. And there's a lot of good things there, but the depth is what's going to be important because not everybody's going to hold up.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
So we're clear. It's Auburn 17-14 on South Carolina. Great start to that one. Wisconsin, Northwestern second half, a 4-point game. Wisconsin's up on Northwestern. The UAB Wichita game is fantastic. It's a 1-point UAB lead, and the Western Kentucky lead is shrunk down to 6. They're up 6 on Middle Tennessee. So the 4 games that I'm watching right now are all pretty much kick ass. And I can't wait later for Baylor, Iowa State, because they both won last night and they're playing.
They certainly did. Baylor beat Cincinnati, Scotty, as we know. Iowa State got done against Kansas State. I'll give you the spread soon. This is to win the Big 12 tournament. 4 teams left in that one. Houston, of course, is the favorite there. They are minus 150. Iowa State plus 350. Baylor plus 360. And if you think Texas Tech can win tonight and tomorrow, 11-1 for them to get that done.
Yeah, look, anything's possible in that tournament. I still think Houston is the best team because of their defense and their guard play. I think they're fantastic. I think they're, frankly, going to win the Big 12 and go to the Final Four. I don't know if they're going to win the national championship, but I do think they're going to the Final Four. I'll be surprised to see, because they're going to be a number 1 seed, and they're not, literally, they're going to have to play maybe, I think, 2 difficult games at best. I mean, to get there, I'd say they play 1 hard game to get there. You got to win 6 to win it all, right? So I think they play 1 to 2 difficult games at best to get in a position to win the 5th and 6th game at the Final Four in Phoenix.
It's very difficult, as we know. All right, we'll come back. I want to give you a couple more conference odds, and then I will rip through all the games for tonight, which we got so many heavy games, and we can't forget about like the Big West, the WAC. I mean, we got the Antelopes and the Anteaters both in action tonight. We got a lot happening here.
Oh, I love the Anteaters.
College rack.
I love the Anteaters. I love the Anteaters.
Has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast.